Michigan, A-Dubs? Unbridled enthusiasm among the Michigan football fans or cautious optimism?
I think it's just like get into work and cautious optimism. You know, it's such a unique time with the way that the playoff falls, right? Because you have winter break. So all the students are gone, which is the majority of the fan base. Classes are out of session. You've got the holidays going on. So there's always so much else kind of occupying people's times leading up to the playoff with the way things are structured. It's so different than, you know, like we're used to with basketball with the March Madness, where there's nothing but hoops and there's this build up and the games are back to back to back, right? And for this, you have like a month off between games. So there's kind of a lull right now. I mean, like for the team, it's all business, but I think for fans, they're like focused on the holidays, the insanity of COVID, everything else going on in the world. And I think next week, you know, when we get closer to the 31st, people will lock in and get fired up. But it's so odd to me how these games fall each year with the holidays and the break with schools and all that for fans. It's kind of different.
Yeah, because you go from, in Michigan's case, 2 weeks of unbelievable highs, right? You beat Ohio State, you go to the Big Ten, you win, and now all of a sudden it's like, all right, everybody go home.
It's almost like 2 seasons.
Yeah.
It really is, with how much time you have off, how much time you have to prepare. Do you over-prepare? Like, how do you manage that? How do you manage the holidays? How do you manage the time off and the extra time and all that? Yeah, it's a different deal. I remember thinking that I spent a lot of national championship games in Tuscaloosa, and I would go to cover what was happening on site during the game. And that was always the vibe I got, because Alabama figured it out real early in Nick Saban's tenure. Like, they're not going to start school till after the national championship game. They literally plan their academic schedule around
Seriously?
it. Yes. So kids were always on break. Now they would all come back early so they could watch the games together in Tuscaloosa if they didn't go to the game. But it creates kind of an interesting dynamic, because you have this break that is so long, and you have, like you said, so much buildup at the end of the season, especially for Michigan. You end on such a high, and then now you have this lull as you ramp up for Georgia.
Yeah, and I don't know if you've got to regroup and recharge to get there. It's a national championship, right? I mean, and to get there, at least when I've seen Michigan players being interviewed, they seem like a chip on the shoulder, we're not done yet, that kind of thing, kind of group. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think there's a sense too. Yes, I think there's absolutely a chip on the shoulder. They were out to prove something. They were 2-4 last year. No one on that team had beat Ohio State. They definitely had a number of things they were looking to prove. But I also get the sense that they're kind of playing with house money. Like, nobody really expected them to be here. They've had to go out and prove everybody wrong each week. Nobody gave them the benefit of the doubt. And I think there's been a lot of redemption already for this team, for their head coach. And I just get the sense like they're kind of playing with house money, nothing to lose. I feel like the pressure is definitely on Georgia between the two teams, you know, being the number one team for the majority of the country. Like, I think Michigan's like, hey, man, we bust our asses. We proved everybody wrong, and we're going to just continue doing that. They're kind of playing with house money.
I agree with that. I agree. The pressure thing, when you think about Georgia, the one real test they had, they got their ass kicked. Let me go to that. I've said this, Allison, and what the hell do I know? But the last 2 weeks, I'm not going to say the whole year, because I think the last 2 weeks are the most important. They're the most recent. I think the most physical team in this is Michigan. A lot of people think the most physical team in this is Georgia. How do you see the physicality of the game playing out?
Yeah, I think that's going to be fascinating, because you only have the body of work of which is presented to judge them off of, right? And I think that the physicality in the SEC has always kind of been the standard of recent years. I mean, I know there's like the physical Big Ten football and the way they play and all that, but when it comes to really physical offensive and defensive lines in the trenches, I think the nod has usually been to the SEC in recent history. I would agree, though, that Michigan is going to be able to go toe-to-toe with Georgia. And I think it's early for them it's especially important for them to establish that early and show that they can play with those guys in the trenches and at the line of scrimmage, and that they can match that physicality, at least, if not up it a little bit. I think that's going to be a focus for Michigan early in the game, to establish that physicality, establish the dominance at the line of scrimmage, and go right at Georgia. And then from there, Josh Gaddis will probably, have some tricks up his sleeve, use some misdirection and stuff. But I think just for the mentality of the game, and to set that precedent early, like, okay, you're the SEC, you've got these big, strong defensive lines. I think for the Michigan offense, especially, to come out early, be aggressive, establish physicality. And I think I think they'll be able to do it. Their run game is solid. I mean, I know like you can look at the stats and it's like, okay, well, who have they played, blah, blah, blah. But really, I mean, for Georgia, you could say the same thing. So they've only given up, I think, more than 150 to Florida rushing. So their run defense has been phenomenal, but Michigan's got a number of backs they can come at you with. And I do think they'll be able to match them toe to toe on the line.
Let me go this route with you. Stay on Michigan, then I'll get to other things. In your mind, you're covering college football last year. You're a Michigan person. Did this come out of nowhere? Did Hutchinson, this whole group, come out of nowhere?
It feels like it, doesn't it?
Yeah, it kind of does.
I mean, I don't know how many of these guys, like how many people knew who Hassan Haskins was last year. Aiden Hutchinson. Yeah, it feels like they really did. Last year was a very down year for Michigan, obviously. The shortened season, the mess that was in the Big Ten, not even getting to play Ohio State, 2 wins, and they retooled their entire coaching staff. They brought in new guys across the board there. And yeah, I think a lot of the players that have emerged this season are new names in college football and people that nobody had really flagged in the preseason to have big breakout years, but they've found some sort of magic mix. And the chemistry on that team is undeniable. I questioned them throughout the regular season. I'm not going to lie. I never really bought in. I kept thinking they were going to be exposed, and they weren't. And not, credit to them, because they figured something out that I don't think a lot of people saw coming.
No, and it wasn't, like you said, it wasn't just the 2-4 record. I mean, it was the retool. It was that Don Brown defense that I always heard, that kind of stuff. I mean, it does. It feels like Georgia, we all knew. Alabama, we always know. Cincinnati, great story, came through, got it done. And Michigan
and everybody came back for Cincinnati.
What's that?
Everybody came back for Cincinnati.
Yeah.
I mean, those guys were, some of them have been there like 5 years. Ritter's been there forever. I mean, so you knew who Cincinnati was going to have. You're familiar with Bryce Young in Alabama. Georgia, you knew that defense would be phenomenal. The main players for those teams, we knew who they were. I don't think we knew who these Michigan guys were.
Oh, I guarantee you I didn't. And I think I follow it about as closely as anybody not involved in it.